Realtor if you're in Texas, real estate agent, broker, what are all the names? Let's talk about what they all mean and what the real differences are, because there's already enough complication in this world. Let's get into the video. When you're in the market to buy a house or to sell one, or even to get into the real estate industry, a lot of the terminology can be daunting. I've been a realtor now for just over 4 years, and as soon as I'm willing to shell out the $500 to take the broker exam, then I'll have my broker license as well. But I'm sure it's really similar to your job even. Some of the jargon that you use might be intimidating to an outsider. Like when someone says the word strut to me, I'm thinking of a woman over-exaggerating her hip swings as she walks down the street. But then someone in the auto industry would think it's part of the suspension, so you can go over speed bumps without having to worry about spilling all your coffee. And I'm like, well, why didn't you just say springs then? Who you choose to work with should be an understanding, or else how else do you know if they're doing what they're supposed to? Well, I'm here because I hear you asking. Let's call it ESP, or extrasensory perception. The most simple definition of a real estate agent is someone who helps people buy, sell, or rent houses or land. Some are employees of the companies that hired them, like in most new home builds. There are others that are educated in real estate but don't have the prestigious designation of realtor. One way to make it make sense would be to think of it kind of like a college degree. And if that were the case, the real estate agent would be the one that just graduated high school. And before I get flamed in the comments for this, some of our most successful CEOs and entrepreneurs only have a high school degree, so I'm okay standing by this comparison. Statistically, about 70% of realtors don't actually have a college degree to begin with, so that's what makes this a fun comparison. Once you go through all the state and federal education and licensing requirements, and you end up joining one of those groups or associations, then you can use the title realtor. This means, though, that a realtor is held to a higher standard of ethics, responsibility, and professionalism. And that doesn't mean that someone at an office or at a new home build doesn't, but it's not always required, where if you're a realtor, we're closely watched and heavily scrutinized. We can get fined or even have our license revoked for going against our code, which is to represent our clients and put their interests above our own. I remember one of my early mentors in the industry telling me, don't be a secret agent, meaning make sure people know you're a realtor. So let's call realtor like your associate's degree or junior college. This is one of the most common misconceptions out there. People assume that broker means better. It's partly true in that you have to be a realtor consistently for at least 4 years. You also have to complete hundreds of hours of education and have a wide variety of transactions to prove your experience. But that's here in Texas though, because in other states, you could take a test and as soon as you pass the exam, they call you a broker. Then there's that rule where people are grandfathered in if they got licensed before this century and they don't have the same kind of strict requirements that everyone else has. And that's part of the reason why there's a variable quality to who you hire. But that goes for any agents that I've mentioned. Let's call this kind of like a bachelor degree, but with an important side note. In real estate, you can take as many electives as you'd like. So all the training and experience and education, that all comes after you pass your test. Your test is just to be able to get your license. Just like getting a college degree is great, but it doesn't actually prove that you can do the job. So someone could be a real estate agent for 7 years, a broker for 18, and a realtor for 2. And all of them, any of them can be the best in your area. I'll tell you what though, when I started in real estate, I'm glad that I spent my 4 years in college learning about marketing, business, and accounting, because it's helped. The best way to explain this is, it's a place for realtors and associate brokers and possibly other agents to hang their licenses or hang their hats. A brokerage often provides tools for their agents, so maybe phones or a website, sometimes even an office. And on rare occasion, they search for people that are looking to buy or sell a home, and then they pass that on to their agents. Beyond that though, they're the business entity or company that's responsible for the compliance of all the agents that associate with them. They come in all sizes and all pedigree of agents. But if you look carefully on every sign or every website for any realtor, you'll find the broker or brokerage name and logo somewhere for my detail-oriented subscribers out there. There are a lot of people out there that want to do it all themselves, whether to save money or they don't think they need a professional. We call them for sale by owners, which usually means privately they're selling it without any kind of structured system like the MLS or multiple listing service. Sometimes that person is formally a licensed realtor, so they knew at least enough of the rules and laws to be able to have passed their test in the past. But if it was 9 years ago and they haven't been active, a lot has changed. Let's call this person Neighbor Bob. And I feel it's kind of important to add Neighbor Bob into this real estate category conversation. Because let's say you're driving through a neighborhood and you see a sign and it says for sale by owner, but then you don't see the property online when you go to search. Or the price is way different than what you would expect. Well, those are usually the most obvious indicators that you're dealing with an amateur. They could also be price baiting like you see on Amazon. When something sells out and then all of a sudden you see it on Amazon at a much higher price, someone's gonna buy it. They know that, supply and demand. I actually had to do that with my new drone because, well, I crashed the other one and this one you couldn't find it anywhere. So I'm not saying to avoid Neighbor Bob, but understand who he is and be smart about it if you're hiring someone to represent you. And the last one to talk about in this particular video is called a broker associate or associated broker. It just means that the person has a broker license and they work for a brokerage, but they're not the single point that's responsible for all the other agents. They may help out because they've proven their experience and their level of education. There are a bunch of other categories too, but that would make this video like 30 minutes long. We have Zillow and Open Door. They created a brokerage just so they could start buying and selling houses at much lower prices. Some agents have mega teams. There are also property management companies. They hire realtors and brokers as well. But I think the ones I talked about are already a good amount of information to digest. So I'll break those down in another video. Thank you for sticking around, and I'm curious what you have to say in the comments. Let me know what you think.